All right, Bucyrus City regular committee meeting for Thursday, December 9th, 2021. Members present, Mark McKeever, Kevin Myers, Jim Mead, Bruce Truca, C. Aaron Sherrick, Lisa Alsept, and myself. Up first, we have economic development, which I will call to order at 6 p.m. Up first, we have public participation. Would anybody from the general public like to speak on any of the topics that economic development has up for this evening? If you do, please go to the podium, state your name and address, and
What topics are on the agenda for that?
approval of minutes, partnership agreement, library appointment, BZA, BBSA appointment, and then open projects.
Okay.
There's public participation at the end too, if you want to wait.
I'll go with some of it now.
Okay.
Kurt Fankhauser, 1675 South Sandusky Avenue. There was a little confusion. I got hold of Doug about the health board appointment. I thought it was up in 2 years. I looked into bylaws on the health board and the city's contract. It's actually a 5-year appointment. So I've still been going to that here recently. I love being on the health board. I plan on continuing to be on it. So I think there needs to be consistency there as far as members not changing and stuff. Also, the other thing, the economic development or the partnership agreement. I seen an article in the newspaper today that Mr. Mead was recommending quarterly updates from Gary Frankhouse.
No, recommending quarterly payments for reports.
Quarterly updates and maybe some quarterly update or payments.
Quarterly updates and payments.
I highly agree with that. I just want to give an example of something that came up several months ago. I seen an article in the newspaper that Mr. Frankhouse met with the county commissioners and was trying to get some broadband funding for a new startup broadband company that actually wasn't even based out of Crawford County to run some fiber optic. And Gary wasn't even aware that I myself, through my business, we're actually doing the same thing. I'm actually laying fiber right now out in rural Crawford County. And I think that, I don't know if it was some miscommunication, somebody just didn't know I was doing the same thing. I just think if we get Gary in here more interacting with everybody, it'll help keep everybody knowledgeable about what the left hand and right hand's doing. So, I highly encourage you guys to follow through with Mr. Me there. And I also had something else about, is the downtown street lighting still in committee?
Are you talking about the color of the bulbs?
Yeah.
I believe it would still be considered an open project.
Yeah.
Which committee was that in?
That'd be in public lands and buildings, I
I
believe.
think it was in public lands.
Is there going to be a public lands and building meeting?
There is.
Okay, I'll just save that for then.
All right.
Thanks, Kurt.
Anybody else? Good, Bill? All right. Up next, we have the approval of minutes. After listening to the audio recordings last evening from the meetings from the Economic Development Committee meetings on Thursday, July 8th and Thursday, July 22nd, I was able to put together the meeting minutes for everything that took place. So if you guys would like to take a minute, there's not much there to read over those real quick, so we can approve those and get those filed. Yes, sir, Mr.
I'll
Meyer?
move to approve as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Myers, second by Sherrick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, minutes are approved. Next up, we have on the list here, we have the Crawford Partnership Agreement. So, open the floor
I
up.
can actually shed some light to that for you, Doug.
All right.
So I went searching, like I told Mr. Me we would, and we found the original and apparently only agreement I could find here in the building anywhere that was entered into between the city and the partnership in October, I believe it was, of 2016. And if you read through it, you'll see that we actually were supposed to be being billed quarterly all along. We are supposed to have a quarterly update. And it also says this was a one-year contract that should be renewed every year. I spoke with Jeff Wagner a little bit about it yesterday and shared my feelings, and he kind of thought that I was barking up the right tree. I think that we go forward and request a 2-year agreement with him that goes concurrent with our council terms. And it can really say pretty much what it says now, unless there's anything anybody else wants it to say. But I thought that the best way to do it would be for this committee to ask for legislation that directs the safety service director to enter into a contract with the Crawford Partnership.
Do we need him
saying,
we need the law director to draw it up for us first so we can see it before we?
That's where we would request draft legislation and ask them to look at, and then we can,
So are we going to reiterate to the foundation that we want the quarterly?
well, the mayor called and told him we wanted an update. I don't know how that went. I didn't hear the results of that conversation, but
Because actually for them to be working for us, then they're supposed to be giving us quarterly updates. It's supposed to be billing us quarterly.
correct.
Okay.
The question I was going to ask the auditor, is there a way, if we set it up and have the contract signed that we're going to pay quarterly, is there a way that we can word it into the legislation that we need approval from economic development and/or finance to pay each time? Or is it once the contract's signed, you're going to pay regardless? Or I don't know what the ins and outs
You
are.
can put whatever you want in the legislation. I mean, I'll follow whatever.
Sure, I think, we all, today, if we entered into an agreement, we would know exactly what it said, but, not many of us were here when this was signed, and, I didn't know that it was needed updated every year type thing. And I think we have to protect ourselves from our future selves. Who's gonna be sitting here, 10 years down the road? So I think I would
Is there a
like
reason
to-
why you're just asking for the 2-year contract because council does 2-year terms?
Yeah, I mean, we could leave it a 1 year.
I almost feel like you should, just in case something comes up, like we had issues because of COVID and we were worried about money and funding. Because this isn't, I'm not saying it's not important, I'm saying it's not a necessity.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but I can't argue at that
You
point.
know, I mean, if it came down to me paying my bills and this was somebody I was donating money to, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm just saying they would be one of the last people that get paid before somebody else did.
Sure. So, unless you want to have further discussion, I'd like to make a motion with some specifics I think would work for everybody. I'd like to move to request a resolution that directs the service director and/or mayor to enter into a annual agreement for services that includes quarterly reporting, quarterly billing, and that requires economic development and finance to sign off on issuing payment each quarter.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in
Can
favor?
I say something first? I think you might be crossing into the administrative functions, possibly with the finance and economic development chair to sign off on issuing a payment, which would be forbidden by the legislative members. I think only the council president has the administrative authority. I'm just trying to keep you guys from getting in a situation
Yeah.
where you might be.
How about we, since I've requested draft legislation to come back to this committee, how about we let Mr. Gernert research that and word it in a way that he feels comfortable that we're not sticking our neck out unnecessarily to accomplish the result we're looking for? Is that fair enough? I mean,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And so we move on. Library appointment. I'll read the letter again here. Bucyrus City Council, attention Council President, Bucyrus City Hall, 500 South Sandusky Avenue, Bucyrus, Ohio, 44820, dated November 12, 2021. Dear City Council members, the Bucyrus Public Library Board of Trustees has received the resignation of trustee Cassie Grau effective December 31st, 2021. The Bucyrus Public Library Board of Trustees would like the Bucyrus City Council to appoint Eden Spradlin, I think is how that's pronounced, Kevin?
I think so.
Okay. To replace Miss Grau. Thank you, Stephanie Buchanan, Director of the Bucyrus Public Library. So, this would just be something that we would just need a motion to approve, unless anybody has any reasons why, or...
So moved.
Second.
All right. Motion by Aaron, second by Lisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and Miss Eden will be the new representative, so. Up next on the list, we have the BZA, BBSA appointment. This is the reminder we got from Greg Travis over in the engineering office, or zoning office, sorry, about Mr. William Stuckert reappointed to both the BZA and BBSA boards. Mr. Stuckert is the chairman of both boards, so to avoid him being unable to sit for meetings in 2022, if we can get it on council's agenda either this month or early next month would be great. So I think we just need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
One of the two required, and I can't remember which, one of the two required a resolution, so we could just put them both on the same resolution.
Okay.
And based off of Mr. Travis's request, I think that one we want to ask for emergency legislation so that it doesn't tie them up into.
Expire or anything, yeah.
So you moved as an emergency resolution, and I seconded that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Not going to get into open projects at this time. Any more public participation? I'll recess at 6:12.
Okay, I will call finance to order at 6:12. Members present, Kevin Myers, James Mead. Bruce Truta and myself chair. Okay, in front of you.
Public participation.
Oh, sorry, is there any public participation? Okay, if not, we'll proceed. In front of you, you have 4 copies of finance.
It's actually 6 sets of minutes.
6 cents. Oh, yeah, I have 2 pages there. 6 copies of minutes. One is for Friday, August 13th, 2021. One which was a special joint finance and public lands building committee meeting. The second one is for Wednesday, September 8th, for health and safety and finance joint committee meeting. Third one is for health and safety joint and finance joint committee meeting for Wednesday, September 8th. Oh, wait a minute.
You may have gotten 2 of them, they may have stuck together when I put them in.
No, it's a continuation of it. I'm sorry.
Oh, page 2.
Page 2. The next one is the Thursday, November 18th, Finance Committee meeting.
That one you'll notice is wrong. I saw it after I printed, so I actually corrected it, and that's the last one in your packet is corrected. So the one that says the 20th is actually the 30th, which you have in your packet.
Okay, we have the Tuesday, November 30th, 2021 meeting. The Wednesday, December 1st, 2021 meeting. And the December 6th Finance Committee meeting. Does anybody have any questions? If not, I entertain a motion to accept these minutes. You don't have to, you can read through and double check.
We have to correct spelling errors.
If you find them, yes, I would love to correct them.
Okay, go to Monday, December 6th. Go down to number 3, line 3.
Special D,
I see that.
Kind of like special K.
Yep,
and an I at the end of finance.
yep.
Finance side? Latin.
It's Latin for I was typing fast, I'm sorry.
Okay. Got those corrections? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
let me start. I'd like to make a motion to amend the December 6th with the correction Mr. Truca just pointed out, and I'll put a notation in the way that Mrs. DeShawn has suggested.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. There's no other corrections needed. Don't see any misspelling, and it looks good.
Motion to
Entertain a motion to accept all the minutes collectively.
So moved.
Second.
There's no other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passed, unanimous. Okay. Joyce, the floor is yours.
You've got a stack in front of you. This one being appropriations that we need on December 21st. The first one being,
Joyce, you got your mic.
okay. The first appropriation is in the general fund in Program 4, Community Environment. We need to appropriate from unappropriated general funds to the Planning Commission, that's Department 7775, to Personal Services, $1,500. Then also in Department 7776, Zoning Board of Appeals, Personal Services, we need to appropriate $1,500. This is to cover the salary and benefits for December payroll. We came up a little bit short. Then also in Fund 502, Marion Road Assessment, we're getting ready to close this out because the assessment has ended, but we did receive one small payment in property taxes this year of $51.32. So I need to appropriate that amount to the transfers line so that the balance of funds can be transferred to sewage disposal, and that'll close out the assessment, because this assessment was for the sanitary sewer that ran out Marion Road. That was 20 years ago. Then the last appropriation is in the Waterworks Fund in Department 7525, Waterworks Distribution. We need $40,000 to Personal Services, and this is to finish out salary and benefits and a retirement buyout that we had this month in the December payroll. And that's all for the appropriations.
Each piece separate legislation.
No, the appropriations is all one.
I'm saying the appropriations are separate from the.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Motion to request emergency legislation for said appropriations.
Second.
There's no other discussions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimous. Next.
Okay, the next one, there's one transfer I need to make within the Safety Forces levy. And I'm reducing the police department personal services by $25,000 and increasing the fire department personal services by $25,000. And that's needed to cover the fire salary and benefits for December payroll. They're getting a lot of overtime with all these ambulance runs. So,
Move to request emergency legislation for said transfers.
Do I have a second? If there's no questions or discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimous. And the next one, which is
next
quite lengthy.
yes, it is quite lengthy. These are appropriation reductions that we need to make for the end of the year, and what this will do is help bring our appropriations in line with revenues received. And we like to have a cushion in there, and funds we haven't used, we're going to take out of the appropriations. So in the general fund, Program 1, Security of Persons and Properties, we're going to reduce police department personal services by $50,000, and the fire department in transfers, $15,000. Then in public health services, we are going to reduce contractual services by $40,000. And part of the reason we're able to do this is because of the changes in the ambulance subsidy this year due to various reasons, but we didn't pay as much as we had originally thought we were going to before we took over. Then in Program 6, Transportation, we're going to reduce the budget in the airport, the capital outlay line, by $75,000. This is money that we thought we were going to have to pay the city share on the airport improvements, and the FAA is covering it all, so we reduced that by $75,000. In Program 7, General Government, in contractual services, this covers multiple things. I've got contractual services and I've got 24. Correction there, that should be a 23 in front of that. That object level is 23. This is where we reduced some money in lands and buildings, things that we didn't need to do, and the demolition money that we didn't use this year. So there's $105,000 we're reducing there. In the Safety Forces levy, in the police department, we're reducing, and this covers the actual officers and dispatch. We're reducing personal services by $105,000 and transfers by $15,000. Then in the Permanent Improvement Fund, under general government, we're reducing the capital outlay by $40,000. In the airport grant, we're reducing the airport budget, contractual services by $5,000, and capital outlay by $1,340,963.97. Now this will carry over into next year's budget, but I closed the POs because I did not have the money to advance from the general fund to cover that kind of an expenditure. So those POs will be reopened in January. Then in Fund 286, the 2021 victims of crime, we're reducing the victim advocate amount by $1,088.69, and that's to bring it in line with the monies received. Then in OPWC, the State Route 98 water line, we're reducing the water distribution line by $50,091.23. The project came in under the amount that we were awarded, so this just brings it in line with what we actually, the monies we actually used. Then in Fund 411, the OPWC Woodlawn Avenue water line and manhole replacement, we had that budgeted for this year, but it's been delayed and it won't start until next year. We have to have it done by July 1st of next year. So we're just removing these amounts out of this year's budget and it'll go in next year's. Water distribution, we're reducing by $120,472. Sewers and drains by $32,264. And stormwater by $32,264. And then Fund 416, the new water filtration plant and distribution lines construction. We're finally closing this fund out. They haven't sent me an amortization schedule yet, they just keep sending me invoices, but it appears that this loan is closed, there'll be no more expenditures against it or anything, so we're removing $119,388.90 from capital outlay. Then Fund 801, which is a police pension. We're reducing personal services by $24,904.61 and the contractual services by $617.41. Fire pension, we're reducing personal services by $15,899.48 and contractual services by $617.41. And that's all the reductions. And this will also be an emergency.
I'll request legislation, emergency for said appropriation reductions.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
There's no other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion passed unanimous. And you got two more items here.
I also need authorization for 2 advances from the general fund to cover year-end expenses and encumbrances for which monies have not yet been received. One is in Fund 281, which is the 2022 Crime Victims Assistance, $3,175. This is all a personal services grant. And in Fund 282, the 2022 Victims of Crime Act, $2,500. These amounts may be reduced if funds are received before year end. We do have a couple requests in for reimbursement, and we do not have them yet. And these funds will be returned to the general fund in 2022.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Yes. As emergency.
As emergency.
Okay, I have a motion as emergency. And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimous. And one more. Is that, you got, oh, you already did the referral. Okay, well, I'm sorry. That's it. What should I?
I was going to say, did I miss something?
Wrong paper looking at here.
Yeah.
Okay, wrong paper.
And I did give Finance Committee members a final copy of that expense worksheet, so that's for your review.
All right, if we don't have any other questions for Joyce, she has to leave, so have any questions for her, ask her now, otherwise I'll say bye. The Crawford Partnership. So,
I would say let's wait and let Mr. Vernon do his research, and when that's brought back to economic development, we can ask to have it brought back to us concurrently.
okay. Does anybody want to go over any open projects? I don't have the list in front of me, but if you have one, we can discuss it. Otherwise, we'll move on. Public participation. I see none. I will adjourn at 6:30 and call plating at 6:30. Public participation.
I seen that,
Here, will you pull your microphone up toward you, please? Thank you, sir.
I've seen that there's a demolition happening next Wednesday at the former Freddy's. And, for construction of a new park. Now, Mr. Gerner, you may want to check into this, but I'm pretty sure that, parks are prohibited in the general business district. So you might want to look at changing the zoning to allow them there, or changing what zone that's in, or something. I'd hate to see that project get stalled out for something as simple as zoning. That's all I got for this committee.
All right, before you have a copy of the November 18th and November 26th plating meeting minutes, and let me say, members present: Doug Vogt, James Me, Bruce Truca, and myself, chair, for plating. You see the minutes in front of you. You have any questions, any corrections? If
Motion to approve. So moved.
do I have a second after you've looked them over?
Sorry, I read them online today, that's how I heard.
That's right. Give them time to. That's all right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any discussions? Bruce, have any questions?
No.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And motion passed. All right. Annexation of a certain property of the man to my right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Would you like me to give an explanation?
Yes, sir,
on what-
please do.
Okay, so you'll see, you got Exhibit A that's got some things highlighted in yellow. The people that went out and did the surveying at this property either had or submitted some faulty information, which is what we were given to create our original legislation with. This has since been corrected, and we've received the updated portion. And so what this committee needs at this point is to request legislation to, and I don't know, Mr. Gernert, if we're repealing and replacing, or if we're just amending.
You said amend the last.
46/2021.
Right, it would probably just amend
Amend.
with the
Corrections.
corrections. Some whereas is explaining that the survey included some wrong denominations, and the same process is the same, we're just including a corrected legal description.
And the commissioner's office in there communicating with me said they would like this as soon as possible, so I would suggest an emergency, but that's for you guys to decide.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
You do also, if I could continue, sorry, you do have a copy of the updated resolution from the commissioners dated December 8th in your packet that does have all the correct information on it.
I'll move the motion to request emergency legislation with the amendment to the, was it
Ordinance 46-2021.
Second.
Okay. There's no other discussion. There's no other discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimous.
Just for your information, the page that has McKeever on it, that is the updated information.
Yep.
Okay. Make a motion for the corrections.
That's what Doug just did,
Motion with the amendment.
to amend.
Amended corrections.
Yeah, but they've already been corrected in McKeever's, right?
Right, our resolution has to include that as Exhibit A.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
That's easy to do.
Okay. And the last item, you have a letter in front of you dated December 7th, 2021, Bucyrus City Council, 500 South Sandusky Avenue, Bucyrus, Ohio, 44820. In regards to items approved by Planning Commission for City Council's review, Bucyrus City Council. Bucyrus City Planning Commission met on Monday, December 6, 2021. It is requested that the following item approved by Planning Commission be submitted to the appropriate council committees for review. The item is per Bucyrus Codified Ordinance 1157.04. Planning Commission submits that the property located at 1145 West Mansfield Street be reclassified from residential estate, RE, the required designation of newly annexed properties, to suburban residential, R1. Properties proposed for zoning reclassification include 1145 West Mansfield Street, parcel ID numbers 0500071700 and 0500071800. Thank you, Jeff Reeser, Chairman of Planning Commission. So, on the back of this, there's a letter. Good morning, the engineers. I'm sorry.
That's from the previous one.
No.
So you
Okay,
don't-
well, don't have to read, I don't have to read that.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Okay. So, I need a motion to reclassify that property to a suburban residential R1. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, quick question. What's the difference in the zoning there? I mean, like, why is it needed for the difference in zoning?
Because it's not a residential estate. It's not classified as a residential estate, and that's how we've had it set up for any new property. That is, as what Aldi's came in as a residential estate.
But what's a residential estate versus the R1 residential?
I can't answer
That's what I
that.
was wondering. I mean, like, why do we need to change it? I mean, if it's residential, it sounds like it's residential. I mean,
Maybe I could ask a former city
Hold up there, John.
to explain the difference between an R1 and an RE. John, this is John Rostash.
Turn on your mic. I've been waiting to say that for a long time.
Thank you. Yeah, residential estate, when a parcel comes into the city of Bucyrus, when it gets annexed in, it's first annexed in as residential estate. Then it has 90 days for planning commission to evaluate what would this parcel best be suited for in the area that it's at. And in this case, it would be R1. And the difference there being is setbacks are going to be smaller in the R1 because residential estates are more for larger properties. So you have larger setbacks in the front yard, side yard, rear yard. The uses are a little bit different in a residential estate as compared to the R1, so in this case, it's much more appropriate for the property to be zoned R1 as opposed to RE.
I did think it was setbacks, but I couldn't answer specifically. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
How many other people's camera guy can come out and answer engineering and zoning questions?
Not many. So, can I entertain a motion?
You've already got a motion and a second.
All right, I'm sorry. So if there's no other
Is it
questions,
emergency or regular?
we don't need this as an emergency, do we?
You have
We don't have a time frame.
90 days from the original
Yeah,
classification.
we better,
I wouldn't say that.
we better make this as, you want to amend your,
Make a motion to request emergency legislation.
Second, as an emergency.
okay? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimous. Okay. Open projects. If nobody has any at the moment, I will adjourn at 6:41. I'm sorry, public participation, and I forgot that at the end. If not, I'll adjourn at 6:41 PM.
Call health and safety to order at 6:41 PM. In front of you, oh, sorry, any public participation for health and safety? Seeing none, in front of you, you have minutes for the July 8th, 2021 Health and Safety Committee meeting, July 22nd Health and Safety Committee meeting, the September 8th Special Health and Safety and Finance meeting, which you'll have to go back to your finance packet to get those, the September 9th Health and Safety Committee meeting, the September 14th Special Health and Safety Committee meeting, and the November 18th Regular Health and Safety Committee meeting. After you've had a moment to review, I'll entertain a motion to approve all minutes collectively.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second. I have a first by Mr. McKeever and a second by, and a second by Mr. Me. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, you have in front of you the letter from the Ohio Department of Commerce Division of Liquor Control, and what we have here is the Bucyrus Food Mart, which will be moving into the former Southland drive-through, there across from Taco Bell, is requesting to transfer a liquor license from a Save-A-Lot in Cleveland to this address. And this committee needs to decide whether we want to request a hearing or forego a hearing. And I've checked with the law director's office and the police chief, and neither of them have any concerns with this transfer.
I'll make a motion to not have a hearing.
Second.
First by Mr. McKeever, second by Mr. Truca. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. I will notify them that we've chosen no hearing. The next item, I did not copy these again from your paperwork on Tuesday, but I included the police and fire chief reports since it's been some time since we've had monthly reports to basically see if anybody had any questions that they wanted asked of them. I thought it was really nice to see the fire department, especially given the new undertaking of EMS, see where they're going, what they're doing. how busy they are, and things like that. So I just really wanted to see if anybody had any questions that they needed answered of either the police chief or fire chief.
That'd be nice to see on a monthly basis.
So I had asked both
quarterly
of them if they
basis,
would give us that information monthly going forward, and they both agreed.
Sounds good.
You know, they're both relatively newer in their positions, and I think that honestly, that was the first time they've been asked to do that. Because we weren't getting it before, and they just didn't know it was part of their job, I think.
We've
And
never gotten a monthly report since I've been.
right, but I can remember as a child watching the meetings, that the police chief and fire chief were always at every meeting, so.
Yeah, that's what I always.
So, you know, I'm glad that we're able to see that and just know that good things are happening in both departments. And they will still continue to come in person and give their annual report, but they're going to continue to give us a monthly report going forward. Any open projects that anybody wishes to discuss in health and safety? Any public participation? Hearing none, I'll close out health and safety at 6:46 PM. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. So at 6:46, I will start Public Lands and Buildings Committee. So first on it is public participation.
Kurt Fankhauser, 1675 South Sandusky. Several months ago, I'm not exactly sure, we were very close to having all the downtown lights switched over to the brighter ones that would match the block there that, I don't even know what you call that block, 200 block of South
Yeah,
Sandusky.
200 block.
And it came down to the holdup was, it was a $5,000 cost. And Kevin was concerned about General Electric possibly closing up, what that would do to our revenue. I kind of got thinking about it again as I was driving downtown here once the Christmas decorations were put up, and you know, the wreaths don't match, and I'm a little disappointed to see we don't have Christmas lights on the trees on the square. But I think I may have some funding where we could come up with to, you know, get all those lights replaced and maybe buy some new Christmas lights. And I kind of think that the wreaths, maybe if you went to some kind of LED on those, the Christmas wreaths, you know, I like colors, some people don't. I'd like to see colored wreaths. But this city, up until 5 years ago, was not paying for internet at city offices. There was an agreement with my company that used the towers, gave the city free internet in exchange. And about 5 years ago, when this phone system came in, they went to using Spectrum as their internet, and then started paying about $2,000 a month for internet that they were getting for free. And I think there was a little confusion with, like, could the phones and the voice over IP work over a wireless? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. Voice over IP can work over wireless. So now that this Time Warner contract, I guess it started out as Time Warner, they changed it, the name of Spectrum. That was a 5-year contract. That contract expired this fall. So, and as far as, unless it's been changed here in the recent several months, the contracted speed that the City Hall building is getting for that very expensive internet connection is just a mere 20 megabits per second. I mean, we noticed it in the council office on a daily basis. I mean, the whole building's sharing like a 20, which is like rather slow by today's standards.
That has been updated to 100,
Okay, when did that happen?
4 or 5 months ago.
Okay, well, basically what I was going to say is, you know, I'm still willing to provide those free connections to the city, you know, as part of the tower contract. It's actually still wrote in there, but they're not even utilizing it. And then that would free up all this money that could change out the downtown lights. I figure in the first year, you'll be able to change out the lights and update the Christmas wreaths and have money left over. And then every year after that, you're just saving even more money. So, I mean, you could probably come up with other things that could be done. So I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, I know you guys are tasked with making a hard decision of being wise stewards of the tax revenue, but it's just always bothered me that the city was paying $20,000 a year for internet with me knowing, and I couldn't say anything when I was council president because of conflict.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Or a suggestion, actually. I'm not exactly sure where that belongs, whether it goes into finance, whether it's an administrative decision. So
Well, it's administrative.
maybe send a letter stating what you just said, and send it both to the administration and to the council.
And you
And
know,
then we can decide if it goes anywhere in this body for discussion, we can refer it. And
yeah, I can do that. And, you know, I had the police department down there, they had a connection, and they were still using that up until a couple months ago. And they canceled it, and, I mean, it was free. They weren't paying for it. And then they started using like a Spectrum connection. I started thinking, you know, that's costing them money. What they were using for free wasn't costing money, and I'm donating like the cameras and stuff at the parks, and I'm thinking, if the city has all this money that they can just spend unnecessarily, why am I donating stuff like the cameras for free? I mean, they should start paying me if the city's got all this lush money that they can spend. I mean, and you know, how do you get people to donate money for things when you're not showing that you're trying to save everywhere you can, is my concern. So that's all I gotta say, but I will come up with a letter.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so we'll go to the approval of minutes. In front of you, you have minutes for July 8th, August 13th, September 23rd, October 21st, and November 18th.
I was still going through mine, so I got mine done an hour later.
Yes.
I was still up.
You didn't respond to my message?
I didn't know how late you were gonna be up.
Okay, so Bruce has noticed on November 18th that we need to make a correction on number 3, the 5th line down. I accidentally added a C into Deshawn, so we need to amend that. Thank you. My eyes were going crossed by the time I got to there.
That's one of those things sometimes, like when you read and words just look right, and you just go right over them, I didn't catch up.
Can I ask you to do that amendment as a separate motion?
I'll make a motion to amend the correction
Second.
on November 18th, noted by Bruce. Thank you,
Aye.
Bruce.
So Bruce noted, Mark did the motion, and Doug's done the second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. If it makes you feel better, I sent him 2 copies or 3 copies of one of these where I kept making amendments to it. Oh, and at the top of that, there was a Vicky was spelled with an E on the same one.
Probably should have made those two at once.
So, yeah,
You want to redo that, Mark? Since we-
Including the one in section 1 for misspelling Mrs. DeShawn's first name,
sorry.
I'll second the
which was a
correction.
typo.
Okay,
Aye.
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 all in favor? Thank you, motion corrected, passed.
I'm glad mine was short, because I wasn't making lots of mistakes.
Oh, now we can do all
Okay.
the amendments.
Now, I would entertain a motion to approve them all as a,
So
Sing.
move.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed by voice vote. Thank you.
Good eyes, Bruce.
Carrots.
Okay, so now that we've made it through the minutes. City property,
I could speak to this. This was brought up Tuesday night, and it's something that a couple of us had been talking about previously anyway. So I had Landon Hill prepare these next 2 documents, and the one you see, it has the yellow and the blue line across them. This is all the city property that is currently really unused, not designated for some other use. The question was raised, what do we have that we can get rid of? And so the top, if you take away the blue and the yellow lines, so everything not Russell Avenue there at the bottom in gray. So everything at the top, other than those 2 colored lines, are ones that Landon suggests that should be turned over, or should be put out to bid for sale. And the discussion with the administration to that was, what we did with the land bank when we would sell an empty lot, we got a broker's price of painting, and most of the empty lots were around $650. So they suggested maybe if you put these out to bid at a minimum of $500 opening bid, if there were any neighborhoods that you were concerned with anything, you are allowed to put a deed restriction on. They did tell us that as well, so that's all stuff for consideration. The yellow one was the one they suggested putting into the CIC, because that's the one with the shared lateral sewer line. The gentleman whose sewer line it is running through that property actually has an interest in buying it, and I think their thought was he would have a vested interest in that property, which is really the purpose of the CIC, is to make
well,
that happen that way.
and with the shared sewer line, that comes to be a big mess if.
Correct. So that one, they felt that putting into the CIC, and the gentleman had already expressed the desire to pay the fair market value for that, so that's something the CIC could negotiate with him. Then the one in blue, if you remember years ago, we had a big spaceship-looking water tower in downtown, and they used to do ice skating underneath it.
Kids from middle school used to go.
That's a huge lot. So Landon suggested splitting that into 3 parcels prior to putting that out to bid for sale. And what he said there, the way that happens is your committee would give the approval, then the planning commission would take that matter up. The planning commission, if approves it, sends it back to the plating committee at that point to make said change. So it's kind of a stair-step approach, but that's what this list. And then the grayed out ones for Russell Avenue is, Landon explained, that's where the Buffalo sewer starts, and they're working with Lynn McKeever and them right now. They want to consider that area for a possible detention pond. to try to alleviate some of the flooding, and so they
So
wanted
that
to
was the area
hold on to
that
that and don't disperse of any of that property at this time was their request, so. And then the map you have there, everything you see in red is everything that's listed on this list. And it's just to basically give you an idea of where things are all at.
How close is, do we know how close the Norton Way one is to the existing for sale commercial lot that used to be the old Time Lumber lot? Since it says it's in the LIC zone. I'm just curious.
Well, looking at the picture, it looks like it's,
There's like a couple buildings in between.
yeah, it's, the thing though that caught my attention and the land had pointed out is every one of these we're paying somebody to drive to once a week and mow.
I have a question. Kevin, when you when you said that Landon had suggested we possibly split this up into 3 parcels, I know that when a lot of these lots become empty because the houses have been torn down, they become basically unbuildable lots. Is that gonna cause us to become 3 unbuildable lots?
Right, so I asked that question,
Well,
and
that would be awful.
I asked that question because when I first was having the conversation with him, I said, well, could that be split into 2 or 4? And that's when he said 3 would still make it buildable. And then we carried on that conversation a little further. If any of these lots would be considered unbuildable, you'll see all of them except for the one are in R3. He said if any of them were considered unbuildable, then they could always get a variance to allow them to be built on. So that's something that I think needs to be said if and when these are advertised, based on that conversation with him. But
I say, yeah, picturing that Warren Street, I mean, 3 parcels seems like it'd be a little tight.
Yeah, same here.
Like, if you're gonna build, you wanna be able to have a little bit more to it. I mean,
Right,
2
where houses
maybe,
aren't
but-
turned sideways.
Yeah.
You know,
or
where people
you
turn
look out your side
sideways.
window and you see somebody 3 feet
Yeah,
away.
like,
I get
You
it.
know, where you would normally see a front porch, you see the side of someone's house.
With a water line there, I mean, with the water tower there, wouldn't there be a massive amount of water lines underneath the ground? So it would,
I don't know the answer to that.
see what I'm saying?
I would be more
Typically not.
wondering-
I would say that tower,
No.
there wasn't
You have
anything
one
that
main
came
trunk
down.
line.
You would have one main.
Yeah, there's
trunk?
typically one main trunk line going to the water tower. And then from that main, it gets distributed to secondary lines from there.
So that would be capped off at the street, so somebody could actually put a basement in, correct?
Yeah, they should be able to, depending on where that water
So
line
that
is.
ground's
I
gonna
don't,
need to
we'd
be
have to look
redone
at it.
anyways, because it sits so low down in there already.
It's still a bunch of busted up concrete.
I would say it was dug down to make it so it'd be an ice skating rink. That was neat.
So what about the rest of them?
I think that was what kind of got it brought up too, is these 3 right here, the one's got the yellow on it, and then the 2 underneath of it, because I do remember back when we were talking and about all these properties that Ms. Sherrick talked about, Mr. Ratliff bringing up, these woodlawn ones were the ones that we were concerned with, because they were all close in the proximity of the same block or same property line, and
Yeah, but these are,
so that was what I think kind of got us back into this subject again, was those properties. But since we have the list, I think we should look at selling and getting rid of them. I mean, like Kevin made this statement just a minute ago that Landon told him, however much a mowing charge is times those number of lots every week or month that we're paying.
who puts the deed restrictions on? Do we put them on, or?
The seller does, yeah.
So,
We could if we wanted to, yeah.
I mean, like, what type of deed restrictions would we want? Like, you need to build a house there, or you need to,
You can't build a gentleman's club, I mean.
Which I think all that's
You can
already
put
covered by
whatever you
zoning anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's.
but that you would build, or,
I don't think you can force somebody to build something.
Are tiny homes,
well, I mean, yeah,
Okay.
tiny home would be so cool.
are they okay?
I won't lie.
Tiny homes are not, based upon zoning regulations right now, not necessarily approved.
So would that be something that council would have to visit, like a person coming in asking for a variance if they wanted to build a tiny home?
That would go to BZA.
BZA, okay.
Any variance has to go to the BZA.
Right, I think along the lines of what she's saying though, and I brought this up before, maybe we need to look at changing our zoning to allow those types of structures.
Yep,
Because here again, moving forward, people do like small, the generation that's coming into being
Yep.
homeowners and things like that do like the idea of the smaller yet still full functional home.
yep.
you know? So, actually, here again, past law director had wanted to do this a long time ago as well, because he knows that it's something that's coming along the way too, that could help us out with our issues with the setback problems that we have from houses that are torn down in areas where you can't rebuild on that lot again. You could put a tiny home there because it would fit into the setbacks for yardage.
It's a
and
lot better to
frontage
see a
and-
nice new tiny home too than it is just an empty vacant lot that
Right.
needs mowed all the time while we're
And your
collecting
tiny homes
property
too, now the
taxes.
other things you're gonna have to take into consideration there is some of those are manufactured. Because they're built and then they're spec put on site.
So again, I'd suggest same thing I did to Kurt, make that as a referral at our next council meeting back to planning and let them tackle that idea.
I have no problem doing that, but, I mean, I think that's something that we definitely should, because times are changing, and that's something that could maybe help us.
Well, and a
get
new
this
younger
going.
couple that's starting out can afford $70,000 if they know they're gonna have a brand spanking new home.
Right.
You know, and we're gonna collect property taxes from them. We're gonna be collecting water bills from them. We're no longer gonna be mowing the yard.
Well, and I like it
It's a
too, Lisa,
win-win.
'cause it's a smaller home that it gives somebody an ability to move into and get a start, and then
Yep.
they move into the bigger home that's in the community already, or maybe
Yep.
they build something in our community, so, I'll digress.
So to clarify, you're just moving the two in the yellow and the blue into the CIC? What about the
His
rest?
suggestion was just the one in the yellow to the CIC.
Okay, what about the rest of them?
He suggested just do this, the traditional, normal public bid.
What about the bid?
Okay, and the approval for the splitting, would that be as part of this, or?
He said you could, his recommendation to have me explain it to you was, you can request the planning commission to look at splitting that, and whether you dictated to them that you wanted it into 2, 3, 4, or whether you just wanted them to say, look at splitting this down away from one huge lot, let them tackle it, and then that would come back to platting. But, yeah, so if you
I'd
wanted to
say
move
2,
forward with
though.
this, essentially what you could do was, you could request legislation authorizing these to be put out to bid, with the caveat that the one that's being split would be put out to bid after the planning commission brought it back to platting, and platting approved it and sent it to full council for approval.
Okay.
But the plating committee can make a recommendation on,
Yeah, we can make.
2 and versus 3.
Yeah, well, that's what I just said, we could send that and say, okay, so do I have a motion?
Well, we need two, don't we? We need one for the CIC and then one for the rest to go to bid.
Yes.
I will make a motion to put 822 Woodlawn Avenue into the CIC to seek the sale of that property.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is that as regular
I'm sorry?
or regular or emergency?
I was gonna do it as regular, I didn't see a need to make it an emergency.
Just writing it down.
Oh, yeah. No money, so, well, it'll make us money, but.
Donate for the extra.
I'll make a motion to put all the other properties except the East Warren Street,
And the Russells.
Well, I mean,
and
Yeah.
all the other properties,
In white.
which are East Rensselaer, Wiley, Galen, Blickey, Wallace, Woodlawn, High Street, and Norton Way. The East Warren Street
upon the contingency.
will have to go to the planning commission, but
I mean,
those
can-
ones
can-
I mentioned.
Can we add that in upon contingency, or?
Yeah.
I mean, that way they're all ready to go as soon as that's decided?
We can do that.
So you make a motion? Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that as regular as well?
Regular.
Okay.
Because it's gonna take time for the
Right.
planning commission to.
Understood.
Okay.
No, Mashpee.
Did we just vote on that? Yeah. I'm like, I did say all in favor, right? Or did you have questions first?
No.
Okay.
I had a question just based off the, did you, in your motion, when requesting legislation, want to set a minimum bid price?
Right.
Yes, please.
$500 minimum bid on all said properties.
Okay. All right, so, and all in favor was an aye, I mean, the motion passed. That was the words I was looking for, I'm so sorry. All right, what did you need,
What do you think,
Bruce?
Think 500 is enough?
If the land bank can sell everything for $650, I don't know, man.
If I'm buying them, that's where I'd want them at.
Well, I bet you would. That's why I was asking this question.
But I mean, the bidding process, it starts out there. It doesn't necessarily mean that the property is necessarily gonna sell at 500.
And
It
the
might
land
sell
bank
at-
doesn't do an
might sell at
auction, they just
5,000.
make an agreement with somebody to sell it.
Okay,
At
just
that
want to double
650.
check, make sure, that's all.
So they would go through,
Do we want it at 500, or what was the,
The last property that we sold was what, 1,000? That's,
so should we just cut it and say 750 in the middle?
because I mean, we kind of set a standard or a precedence that when we,
Okay, I'll amend that to say, the motion to include the minimum bid of $750 per property.
I like 1,000.
Okay.
You want 1,000?
I do. I really do. I'm just.
No, that's,
yeah, I mean,
We can have an auction.
I'm not buying any of them, but
Sounds like it.
1,000 sounds fine with me. I'll make it at 1,000.
Auctioning the price we're auctioning them.
$1,250.
No.
we're not auctioning them in this
Minimum
room.
bid.
I mean, we've already done one property
That
already
was-
like that,
Yeah.
just
That was kinda
just
high.
recently.
I was
So
gonna
I
say,
think
and
that
another one had
instead of
sold.
being up and down and every which way, we just, you know, from here on out, say, hey, $1,000 and that way,
if they bid higher, cool.
nobody's slighted, nobody's, you know,
Okay.
so.
Okay, so now that we've got the motion, do we have a second for the Shane?
Second,
Okay, and all in favor?
aye.
All right, that motion passed. Thank you, Bruce.
Okay, now, do we have to do this, as to recommend?
No, that's what we just added to that, was that one would be added in upon the planning commission deciding how to divide it.
Oh, okay, so we're gonna leave it up to them.
Yep, we don't really have a say there. I mean, they said we could give a recommendation, and we'd said 2 for the recommendation, which makes a lot of sense. We do need that written in with the recommendation, don't we?
Yeah, and I
Okay.
thought possibly, similar to the way that the planning commission sends us, I could, as the clerk, send a letter back to them saying that this is what the committee's asked for you to take a look at. I think that
That would
probably
be
covers it.
Great,
So I'll do that for you.
thank you. We appreciate it.
And then, you know, the Russell Avenue, I know that's totally off the board, but that's where all that money came from when we got from the federal government. The federal government came in and took care of demolishing all them
Oh,
homes.
wow, that's awesome.
Is that the same program they did down on Lane and Clinton?
Yeah,
Water?
that was absolutely the same program, all the houses on Lane and Water Street and all that, so. Got rid of all the problems with flooding.
Yeah.
but they really need a retention pond down there on Russell.
That's what they're looking at with
Floods
engineering
bad.
now, they explained.
That's what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And that'd be wonderful if that solves a lot of the other issues. Okay, so we've done the city properties. Blickey Street property, we did separately. Okay, so do we have anything in open projects? No? Any more public participation? Okay. All right.
I got one question.
What's your question?
My only, I do have one question, and I'd like to maybe see that the next council coming in, look into doing something with our Pines Reservoir. Either turn around and I don't know that it was such a good idea to turn around and give it to this conservatory program where we had to sell it to them, and then they turn around and refurbished it, and then we had to turn around and buy it back because they claimed that they could do all this work because they were able to find all the grants and all that stuff. You know, I would hope that we as a city could do it ourselves in stages. You know, there's got to be grant money out there from the state of Ohio and the federal government, or turn around and you know, go back to the idea that maybe Oh, geez, flew right out of my head.
Campground?
Well, no, well, campground. I know that the park district really wasn't in favor of doing anything when the dam was still in place yet. That was kind of biting off a bigger project than I think they wanted to bite off at the time. But,
Maybe a partnership, Crawford County partnership to look into.
I had asked Mr. Wagner at one time, Bruce, if he would reach out to the state park campground people and see if they had any interest, and he said he would try to do that. I don't know if he's done that yet or not, but we can certainly remind him, we'd like him to look at something like that too.
and the other option is that, you know, Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy, it was actually his family's property years ago. You know, 200 years ago, I guess his family owned the property, and I know that he had expressed interest, you know, maybe being able to do something with the dam before it was actually torn down. And we kind of investigated it, and the city was more or less going to be liable, even though it was under new ownership. It would still fall back in the city's lap if there would ever be a breach of any sort. So, but that was kind of a cloudy area that we weren't really sure on. But, you know, the new council, maybe they would entertain the idea of at least having Mr. Murphy come and speak to them and let him tell the new council what his ideas are too. So I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, I think it's terrible the way it is now.
Right.
I mean, it's deplorable. We could do something to clean up the widowmakers, the trees that are out there. You would think that we could take the gates down and do something.
I do know that's still on the open project list, so that's something that
Yeah.
can easily be brought back up.
That was one that I wanted to make sure was still on there. Okay, so do we have anything else for public lands? All right, then at 7:17, I will adjourn public lands and buildings. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna start at 7:17. Service meeting, public participation. No public participation. Approval and minutes. Thank you, Kevin. July 8th and September 9th meeting. I guess I would entertain a motion to accept these minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Material supplies and bids.
So Bruce, that was supposed to
That
have
was-
been removed. I removed it from finance and forgot to go down and remove them here. They are not ready yet. They'll be ready first or second meeting in January to go
Right,
over that.
right,
So
exactly.
I apologize.
No, that's fine. At least it's on the open projects list then though, so. And we went ahead and closed out the open project list at that, I think, I don't know what meeting exactly it was. I mean, I don't know if I have to have minutes for that meeting that we said that we closed out the open projects list.
That was at the last
Yeah, I
meeting.
think we
Yeah, at the
approved
last
those
meeting.
at the last meeting.
You had it at the last meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, so that was
All right.
off, so.
Okay. Other than that, public participation again? No public participation. We'll adjourn at whoever's,
7:19.
7:18?
19.
7:19. I
Yep.
thought, wow. Okay. Thank you. 7:19 PM. Adjourned.
Awesome.
And